Cities are defined by their cultures. Those cultures could entail sports or business or certainly arts and entertainment. Oklahoma City is thriving in all of these areas. But who makes that all happen? This Town OKC explores the people behind the cultures, their origins, their motivations, their challenges, and their dreams. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. I've been in this town for over 50 years with a front row seat to seeing the culture grow from a dusty bus stop on the Southern Plains to a flourishing destination. Join me as we meet the folks behind the culture on This Town OKC. Christy Zelley, thank you for joining me on This Town OKC.
My pleasure.
So as I say in the intro about the oral histories of the people behind the cultures of business, sports, arts and entertainment, it occurred to me that you have the finger on the pulse of people in all of those areas. And that's why you're sitting here today.
All right. I certainly do interact with all those people.
Yes, you do. So for the uninitiated, Christy Zelley is the Executive Director of Leadership Oklahoma City. And you've been in that position now for how many years?
I've been in the executive director position for a little over 6 years and with the organization over 30 years.
Over 30 years. I had no idea.
I know you wouldn't think of it for looking at me.
No, I was thinking maybe 10, 12 years. Anyway, we'll get back to Leadership Oklahoma City. Since this is an oral history podcast, where are you from?
I was born in Oklahoma City. My father worked for IBM, so my mom said that stood for I've been moved, and we moved around a lot from New York to Houston, and our family was here, so we eventually moved back to Oklahoma City.
How many different cities did you live in?
4.
And at what age did you and the family move back here?
I was finishing up my 8th grade year.
Okay.
So that was in the middle of busing.
Yes.
Had just begun kind of in the middle of in Oklahoma City. So it was an interesting time.
This, for those who may not know anything about busing, it was court-ordered forced busing to achieve racial equality in public schools.
That's correct.
I drove a school bus
during
those days while in college.
Interesting.
And I can tell you from my perspective, nobody benefited from it.
No, I don't think so. I think...
So what high school did you end up graduating from?
John Marshall. I'm a John Marshall Bear.
Okay. All right. Do you want to tell us what year?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. A long time ago.
A long time ago. Which is another reason why you're here, because I want the perspective of someone who's been in this town a long time. Where did you go to college?
I went to OSU.
Okay. Majored in
computer science, which is nothing I studied is what I'm doing now. So, but that's not unfamiliar to a lot of people, I don't think.
Well, for instance, I majored in broadcasting, and every tool I ever learned on is now in a museum.
Yeah. When in college, I had to take my little cards and go down into a basement that had a computer probably about as big as this room, and we fed our cards into it. I'm so dating myself right now, but yeah. So now everything can be done on such tiny little instruments now.
Yeah. Did you ever work in computer science after getting that degree?
No, I did not. I did some data management, which is part of the degree. So I guess my dad did pay for a little bit of it.
A little bit. What was your first job out of college?
My first real job was at a oil company. It was called Hoon Exploration, and I was hired as a geotech.
What does that mean?
It's a geological technician.
Right.
So I would help out the geologist and do the map work and the research for them. and which at the time I thought was the perfect job for me because I really did like science in school and rocks, and the oil business was booming then, and so I thought this is perfect. And I really did enjoy that job a lot. And it progressed into that data management, into when we kind of moved into computers and everything. And at the time, my husband and I were both in the oil business, and it was beginning to see the downfall. And so we thought one of us needs to get out of this business. And so...
Was that you?
I volunteered, yeah.
And where did you go? What did you do?
I had a friend that worked at Leadership Oklahoma, and she told me about this position that was opening up at Leadership Oklahoma City. And I thought, wow, that sounds like a fun job. Going, seeing new things and meeting new people, and somebody's going to see how great I am, and they're going to hire me away because I took a huge pay cut to go to a nonprofit. I'm coming from the oil business. And so I went to interview with Karen Luke, who was the executive director at the time, one of my favorite people. And we just kind of had this instant chemistry. And before I left, she said, start work on Monday. So
nice. And what was the position?
Administrative assistant.
Okay.
And I just evolved from there.
Now, as I recall, it's a rather small staff.
Yes.
At LOKC. How big was the staff when you were the admin assistant to Karen Luke?
It was just me and Karen. And but we only had the signature program, which we'll get into a little bit later, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of did the bookkeeping and the logistics, and, Karen did the planning for the program.
How many signature classes had there been at this point?
I started at the end of class 8. So then, we just worked to get the Alumni Association going. It had started, but it wasn't. It had 4 events every year. It had 2 lunches, and it had a governmental reception, and the holiday party, which was held in homes. I'm not sure.
I remember going to Judy Love's house.
Yeah, Judy Love. Ron Yorty had it for a long, long time. And so those were the only events that the Alumni Association had at that time. And then we just grew from there. The alumni got bigger. We decided to add the youth component to the program. And then we did a fast track program.
Is that still in operation?
No, it was a niche program that we made to get people in the community we knew would not take the 9 months to go through the program, but needed to know more about Oklahoma City and the connections. So we had a few people from Tinker that we knew weren't going to stay in the city, but while they were here, they did need to know about the city. We had the FBI.
Right, it's special agent in charge of the area. So this would be a good time to tell the listeners what exactly Leadership Oklahoma City is. I know what it is because I've been through it. Class 22. We have our own gang sign.
You do?
Yeah, we put V's on either side of our eyes. I don't even know how that started. But do tell us what the signature program is.
Leadership Oklahoma City is a training program for community leaders to learn more about the community in hopes that they'll get more involved volunteering in the community to help the community. And so we started, we're on our 43rd year, but we had a COVID year, so actually we're 44 years old. We've had over probably 3,500 people go through the program. And so...
How many people per year, per class?
We have 48 now. We started out with 30. The first class had 30. We grew a little bit each year.
I seem to recall there being 40 in my class of class 22.
Yes. The buses got bigger. So as the buses could accommodate more people, we could add more people to the class. You never knew that.
I love that. That's as good a reason as any to increase the class size. So a class of now 48.
Mm-hmm.
They meet one day a month.
1 day a month.
There's a weekend retreat to get started, but then they meet 1 day a month.
Yes, and each day has a different subject to it. So we'll have Justice and Public Safety Day, Government Day, Health Day, Education, Economic Development, Quality of Life. And each day has a special theme to it where we bring in professionals in that area, and we take tours of places that relate to that area, and so they learn a little bit more about what needs to be done in that particular field.
It's very eye-opening. Very eye-opening.
You would think, after all these years that I've been doing it, that it would get monotonous, but it does not. Because every year is different. And it's so fun because Oklahoma City has grown so much that we can't fit everything we want to do in a particular day.
Right. And what was very big one year may not be as big the next year. There's something else is
popping up.
Yeah.
And
in any one of those areas. And
it's funny because now people say, well, in the 90s, what'd you do on Quality of Life Day? Because that's what all our leaders were thinking back then is, that's, when all before the maps and everything,
right.
How do we improve our quality of life? So I've seen it evolve.
I worked for the city of Oklahoma City starting in January of '88 and worked there for 6.5 years. And 1 year at the government day, as usual, LOKC is meeting in the council chamber. I worked in the public information office, and Jackie Carey, who had been instrumental in forming LOKC, as I understand,
right.
was there. I was in my, I would say, late 30s at this point, and she said to me, "Oh, you need to be in Leadership Oklahoma City." But she said it in front of my boss. And at that time, there was an age limit.
Yes.
And my boss was too old to make it. And therefore, nobody was going out of her office.
Oh.
So I missed my opportunity to do it along about 90, 91, 92, something like that. I had to wait quite a few years later and get in on my own.
Jackie Carey and Virginia Austin are the ones that pretty much started Leadership Oklahoma City. They were in the junior league together. They went to a conference and they saw they had a one-day seminar about the city that they were in, and they thought, well, wouldn't that be great to bring to Oklahoma City, a seminar, bringing all these leaders together and telling them what's going on in Oklahoma City. So they did that, and it was pretty successful, and they thought, we should have a program about that. And so they pretty much started it.
And I think the city is much better off for that.
Absolutely. I was just telling my board the other day that it's like a pebble that you throw into the water.
Right.
You never know the contacts or the network that develop from the people that you meet in the class or from the alum events, the people that you meet. But the ripple effect throughout our whole city is just incredible.
Right. And it's all about connections.
All about connections.
The whole thing is about connections. And, boy, those are important.
And truly, you say, I'm in Leadership Oklahoma City, and it really does open doors for you.
Yeah, it really does. So you've mentioned roughly 3,500 people have gone through the program. You've been there for at least 3,000 of those folks.
You're my favorite.
Not,
if that's what you're hinting at.
No, I'm not getting to favorite. What I'm getting to is some of the luminaries. I know David Holt is a graduate.
Yes.
Our current mayor. I'm sure there are a lot of other names I'm just not aware of.
Yes, we've had a governor. We've had representatives. We've had mayors from different municipalities, too.
Okay.
CEOs of many top companies in the city. as well as just volunteers. I mean, we just have a wide range of people that are in the organization, and those are the connections that help you, when you need something. I mean, it's not just you have to have a 3-letter title behind your name.
Right.
It's you're meeting people from all over the city in all different organizations and making those connections.
What's the weirdest experience you've encountered on one of the class days?
Well, I don't know why this just pops into my head, but if you remember your government and media day,
yes,
we do a mock city council, so people can experience what happens at city council, and they can and not be so afraid to go and voice your opinion when you go. And so we had our mock city council, and we have people that play the council roles, and we also have people, concerned citizens, and members of the city government, and so they're all role playing. And we had a pretend protester, and he didn't really like the verdict of what the city council had recommended. So he back in before they remodeled the city council, they had that bar in front of the city council horseshoe.
Yes.
And he handcuffed himself to the bar. And he had already arranged for he knew the police chief, and so he sent a police officer to come and get him and escort him out. It was quite the scene, but nobody knew it was coming. It was very funny. Probably not too unreal, though.
Really, I'm sure. Speaking of police chief, I recall that Police Chief Bill City was in my class.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's kind of gratifying to be able to run into him in public and go, I know the police chief.
I know the police chief.
I never had to pull that card, to a cop who stopped me for anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure it would work either.
Probably not. In fact, I think he said, don't do that.
Don't ever do that.
It'll make it worse. So from year to year, what are some of the changes that you've witnessed in Education Day, Health and Science Day, Government Day? What are some of the changes that you've noticed? You've had a front row seat to seeing these things change.
I have. And just like Quality of Life Day, from, going to see Canterbury Choir or something, like that, not what we offer today. I mean, it's a little bit.
You have bigger places to go see.
Well, they're, newer,
right.
Arenas and all that kind of thing. But every day, I think, and, I think it's improving. It's not going to improve overnight. But I think, education, I know we're doing so poorly, but if we go into the schools
right.
and we see those teachers and those professionals and those kids learning. And so we just have to find a way to make it better. It is happening. There is learning going on in our schools, and our economic development was the same way when I started. There wasn't much, and
right.
and now they can't sit still. They've got people calling them all the time. Every year the days change. We may have some of the same things. It's sometimes the same format, but the speakers always change and the places we go always change, and so it's a very fluid program, and we just grow with the changes.
I try to make these podcasts evergreen so that they're not so topical. I know that you're about to have a deadline for the application for
our young adult program.
The young adult program.
That's for 23 to 36.
That's the Loyal
35.
program?
Yes.
Yeah, linking Oklahoma's...
On the city's young adult leaders.
Okay.
Good for you.
But let's talk about the signature program, because you've already picked that class. You have picked the class.
We have picked it, and we have not announced it yet.
Haven't announced it. And I'm not asking you to tip your hand or anything. What I want you to talk about, though, is what you're looking for in an application. I know a lot of people have to apply more than once to get in. One of my daughters, it took her 2 times before she was selected. So what are some of the traits you're looking for when they fill out that application?
It just varies. It sounds so silly, but every year it's a different selection committee. So what looks good to one committee may not look good to another committee. In the signature program, they are looking for community experience, but they're also looking for what type of work you do, where you live, where you work, your circumstances, that you came from. If you play a ukulele, one committee may find that fascinating, and how that might add a musical note to the whole class. Or it's just how, I hate to turn people down. It's the worst part of my job.
Yeah.
Because everybody's qualified. Anybody that applies is qualified. It's just that year how it all mixes together.
Right.
And I tell people, don't take it personally. It's not, it's not you. But it's hard when you get that letter that says it's not you.
Right.
But it is, it's just a big matrix. And, the parts just, we just flip it all over the place.
I know that there's an effort to not have too many of any one, not too many lawyers, not too many bankers,
right.
Not too many advertising people, and in any particular industry,
right?
But to keep it a real potpourri,
right? Exactly. That's a good word. I'll use that one. Potpourri.
Feel free.
And then, so it.
And age too. I mentioned that there used to be a maximum age of 35 or something like that to get in, or maybe it was 40.
It was 30. It was 30 to 45.
Okay.
Was the age limit.
Okay.
30 to 45. And then we took away the maximum age limit. It was open to everybody. We've had people that were in their 70s go through.
Well, my wife Gwen had a guy.
Is 70?
In her class 18.
Oh.
Harry Wilson was in her class, and I think he was something like 78 at the time.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember how old he was, but
I just remember her mentioning, because when we have talked to people and someone has said, "Oh, I'm too old for it." No.
You are never too old for this program. I mean, people are amazed. We have people that have gone through after they've retired just because they've heard about it and they thought, oh, maybe something fun. And they get through the program and they say, I never knew all this was going on in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And then eventually we took away the lower age requirement or restriction. And now we just say you have to be over 21. Not too many on the young side get in. They just don't have the experience that we're looking for. But
I know when our son-in-law was looking at it, he was young enough to be in Loyal, and we steered him to the signature program. He said, it's a great program, but where you want to go in your career, you need to be in the signature program. And it worked. It paid off very well for him.
It did. He had an interesting ride-along, too.
Oh, that's right. He did.
He was on the younger side when he went through the program, and we sometimes have these added activities that we do, and one of them is a police ride-along before Justice and Public Safety Day. And so,
which is typically the first. I mean, I had to do mine before we ever met.
Right.
We had the retreat, but then before our first
first session.
Yeah.
Right. And he waited until the night before our first session to do his ride-along, and it just happened that there was a shooting at a hotel on the south side of town, and the gunman escaped, and he was in a car that was a cop car that was on the highway stopping traffic, and all of a sudden the gunman ran across the highway, and the police officer said, get down and pop the trunk. And he was like terrified because he didn't know where to pop the trunk. And the cop got his gun, and they were shooting as he was in
pretty exciting.
The hub of the car. And so he was true hero the next day when he came to class and reported what happened to him.
Well, I know both my wife and our daughter who've been through the program just value it, as do I. It's probably even more important to me than having earned a master's degree that I did at the age of 45. Well, that's when I started. It was just such an incredible program. The eye-opening of what's going on in the city.
Thank you. I think it's incredible, too. And I don't know. I seem to be appreciating it more these days, I guess because of everything that's going on in the city. And I can see our people everywhere that have their finger, doing something to help the city.
And it's gratifying to see in the alumni newsletter the names and faces of those folks who are doing things and winning awards on a huge scale, national scale. And here they are, they're fellow alums.
Yes.
I know in my wife's class, which was class 18, I know every class says they're the best class ever. I can't really say that about mine. I mean, I have, but, I didn't mean it. You got to go along to get along. But her class, I mean, the folks in her class, and they still get together. My class hasn't had a reunion in, 10, 15 years. We just haven't.
She did have a great class.
But, oh, man, that class had some real heavy hitters who are still hitting heavy. And
one of her classmates is going to be the program co-chair for this upcoming class.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jim Perrick.
Yeah, and boy, he's somebody. When I read in the paper about huge, big real estate deals, they always go to him for perspective. I think, well, yeah, I know Jim.
Yeah, I'd go to him too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the Loyal program, and then we'll get into the youth programs.
The Loyal program is for 23 to 35-year-olds. It is more of an introductory program. That one teaches skills as opposed to community issues. There's nothing that we do that's the same in either program. So you could obviously do the Loyal program and not repeat yourself doing the Signature program. But what it's intended to do is to teach you what you need to know to sit on a board and to read financials and to fundraise for a board and, and get involved in the community.
Can I take that class?
I know. I need to take the fundraising. So, and it's, we have 64 participants in that class.
Oh, so there's no bus involved?
No, we take no bus, so we can have a few more people. And it is extremely competitive. And it's probably one of the best programs we do, just
really?
Because those young people, it's hard when you get out of school. You all of a sudden, you had your fraternity brothers or sororities or dorm mates or, whatever friends you had in college, and then all of a sudden you disperse to, different cities and you find a job and, and then what, and so you have people that you work with that you could, go do something with. So I think that's why this network just exploded. Once they got connected, we are starting our 20th year for that program.
Wow. That long.
So, and that was, so we did the fast track for 4 years, and we thought, okay, well, we've kind of picked the people out of the community that we think we wouldn't attract through the Signature program. So we looked at another niche that we could do, and that was the young professionals. And we thought, well, we'll do this for a few years and see how that works. And that, like I said, it just exploded. I mean, it was just, I think, a real need in the community to get these young people together and to network and learn how to get things done in the city.
Well, I recall for a few years, I I think the first few years, I'm not real sure, Gwen and I would do media training for them. And, oh, gosh, we loved doing that. Just as we loved doing the training for the youth council, or we did. I think we've been kicked to the curb on that as well.
I think the city took that over.
Well, and it's quite all right. No hard feelings, always happy to serve, and always happy to step aside and let someone else have an opportunity. But, yeah, like you say, teaching skills and teaching people where to stand, where to look when they're on a TV camera, because there's nothing natural about that at all.
Right.
And the Loyal class have projects, Loyal Action projects.
Yes. Nonprofits in the community submit their applications to have 8 to 10 members of the class participate in their project. We've done everything from help start a young professional board for people. Last year we did help promote Paint the Town for child abuse in the community, and it's the month where companies turn blue lights on, or whatever, and just for awareness. And then we helped with the blood drive for OBI, and so it's just a wide range of activities that we do.
And these are typically short-term projects?
They start in October after the class has had their opening retreat, and then they're supposed to end by the time they graduate at the beginning of May. Sometimes they linger on into the summer, but as long as they're planned and we see an end to it, then we would accept that. But they've made a huge difference. I just had 2 nonprofit directors this year reach out to me and said, I just can't tell you what it was like working with these young people, how professional they were, and what a great job they did for our organization, and things that we would not have been able to do on our own because they don't have the staff.
What kinds of things did they do?
The one of them was the Homeless Alliance, and the director reached out to me, and they had started a young professional board for her. And she said, we've been talking about it for a long time, but nobody had enough time. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize with nonprofits is, like you said, we have a small staff, and everybody's with their head down doing their work, that you don't have a lot of time to try and think of new things or or get things done that you have ideas for. And so just a little help for 8 months, 7 months, whatever it is, helps out organizations.
So that was a project that really happened over a course of time.
Yes.
It wasn't a one day, let's go in and clean up this mess here.
No, we try and steer away from let's work a booth at the Arts Festival, or let's hand out water at the race. That's not really teaching them anything.
Right.
But, and not every experience is a good experience, as you can imagine. Sometimes we've had a liaison that quit in the middle of the project, and nobody told us. And so our people are trying to contact her, and she's gone. And nobody's getting back to us and saying she's gone. And they're getting frustrated. They don't want to do anything for the organization anymore. But it's all part of the learning process.
Sure.
It's, when you work, when you help a nonprofit, everything's not going to be, go easy peasy every time.
Right. The youth programs, you have more than one.
3.
Okay.
3. So I think we mentioned the Youth City Council. It has 18 students in it, and it shadows our real city council people. 2 are assigned for each ward, and then 2 to the mayor.
Do the council people select those students, or is that an LOKC committee?
We manage the program, so we do. We don't want it to be political. We don't want to have to put that on the city council people. So they go through a selection process like the other 2, our other 2 programs. The city council people do get the final okay. But they usually accept our recommendations. And then that program, each month they take a ward and they learn about that ward, and they have to go to planning meetings, commission meetings, and they have to go to neighborhood meetings, and they really learn about their ward, and you helped them with the media part.
Right.
They do a little.
They have to do a report.
A television report,
Yeah.
that's aired on every month. It's a really interesting program because they get to go behind the scenes of a lot of what the city does, and they learn a lot. So it's really good if kids are interested in city government or municipal work or anything like that, any kind of political desires that they might think they want to be interested in. It's a good program for them.
And this is open to juniors and seniors?
Juniors and seniors, yes. For any school system that touches Oklahoma County.
Okay. It's been going on long enough now. Have you seen any of those graduates of the Youth Council go on to seek office?
We actually had at least two city council people that were in the program and are now but have been city council people.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Good job.
Yeah.
What are the other programs? YLX is one.
YLX is everything. It's the umbrella. It's
okay,
Youth
that's
Leadership
the umbrella.
Exchange.
Okay.
Then under that, we have Leadership Skills, which is similar to our signature program. They kind of study the community. They learn about the issues in the community, and they, hear from different perspectives they have certain class days, just like the signature program. And then that has 48 students in it. And there's students, like I said, from all over the city. And we've heard from parents for years and years that said, I cannot believe how my child has blossomed this year, because they're outside of their school setting.
Right.
And they go in and they meet these new kids, and they can, kind of puff their chest a little bit. They're in this super duper, program, and they get to meet all these kids. And then they go back into their own schools, and they feel a lot more confident,
right.
And it really changes their school experience. And it's also fun for them when they go to presidential leadership classes. They see people that were in their classes, or girls stayed or boys stayed.
Right, right.
And so that's always fun for them. And then our last program is Youth in Action, which is more of philanthropic. They decide as a group, as a class, each year it's different, what issue they want to study. And so they learn how to brainstorm and then narrow down their choices. And then they ask for agencies to submit grants, and they review the grants. And then they choose what organizations. They narrow it down to 2 or 3, and those organizations come and make their little pitch to the students. And then the students, discuss and vote on which agency they want to raise money for. And then we set them up with Leadership Oklahoma City alums, and that will hear their pitch. But we always tell them, you don't have to say yes. You're just saying, I'll hear them. But, usually once they hear those kids ask for money, they usually get their money. But
Which is exactly why I have turned down the invitation.
But if somebody is interested in foundation work or fundraising, it's a great way to learn about the community.
As far as time commitment in each of the programs, I know the signature program beyond the opening retreat is 1 day a month. Loyal is 1 evening a month, correct? After work?
No, it starts at 3:00 now.
Okay.
It started a little later when we began, but we've found that bosses are pretty willing to give their
Good.
employees
Good.
time off.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so it's from 3 to 6:30.
And then the youth programs, do they get a day out of school?
They get a day out of school.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's some enticement, don't you think?
Exactly. And everybody gets to eat. You feed them.
We feed well, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm always impressed with the tub of snacks.
Our snack bucket, yes, yes. It's like the adults are little kids again, pawing through the snack bucket.
Yeah. What else is there to talk about this that we haven't talked about? I want to put you on the spot while you're thinking about that. You've been 30 years with LOKC. Surely you're thinking about the fourth quarter of your life. Are you planning to retire anytime soon?
Do you have something else for me to do?
I do not. I have a board you can serve on as a volunteer.
It comes into my mind every once in a while, but then I think, well, I'm not really ready not to do anything, and what do I want to do more than this? Right. So here I am.
So here you are. Christy Zelley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
This has been. We've talked almost an hour.
I told you I didn't have that much to talk about.
Yeah, you're right. You were. It was so tough to pull things out of you. Carpenter Square Theater is the sponsor of This Town OKC. It's edited by Fred O. Bishop. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. This has been a Lippert Media production.